So, if this sounds familiar to you, we're going to go over these things, okay? It's explainable. So, sometimes people tell me, I hear things, but they're just not sticking, they're not landing, or they feel very overreactive, overwhelmed, just snap very quickly, get very emotional very quickly. Or they'll say, I can't remember what I just read, or what did you just say? Could you repeat that again? I can't remember what you just said. Or they'll say, I'm trying, but my brain is just not cooperating. And I can tell when I'm on the phone or on the Zoom with people, they're trying to get their words out, but they're just not processing. And so, I try not to complete people's sentences, of course, but be able to know that there is a frustration out there, and I have some tips and some strategies to help. So your brain's not overloaded, or it's not broken, it's just overloaded, okay? So it's not about being dumb versus smart. It's not about who has the willpower or the motivation. And it's definitely not about age. You guys, I Zoom with some people that are in their 80s and 90s and they're sharp as a tack. So it's definitely not about the age. It's about the load versus the capacity. So there are five major contributing factors, and we're going to look at each of these over, the course of the next 4 weeks. But looking at chronic neuroinflammation. So know when I say neuro, I mean brain, but looking at that chronic brain inflammation, most people don't think about their brains being inflamed. You think of a brain, you're like, oh, CT scan or MRI, and that's kind of like the extent of it. Do I have a stroke or a blood clot or something like that? But they're not really thinking about just the inflammatory response in the brain. And then, of course, we all know about those constant dopamine spikes, right? From the phone, from the scrolling, from the notifications. OMG, the phones that are not on silent, the ones that ding constantly, the ones that ring blow my mind. In an airport, you hear a phone ring and you're like, wait, what? Is that phone ringing? We don't have phones that ring today. Can you imagine walking down the airport if everybody had their phone turned on, the notifications allowed, all the sounds, the beeps and the dings and the rings and everything? Oh no. But some people have their notifications set that way, and so it's constantly hitting the dopamine constantly in the brain. And then, of course, we did a whole series last year on longevity, and we talked about sleep, and we talked about poor sleep architecture, and we talked about good sleep habits and how to repair that. And then also, people deal with parasympathetic nervous system. Versus sympathetic nervous system, meaning if you're in the sympathetic nervous system, you're in that fight or flight mode. And so a lot of people are stuck there and they don't get any time to recover, any time to relax and the rest digest parasympathetic mode. And then you all know the environmental toxic load out now that we have out now is absolutely insane with our food, our environment, our water, the air. It's crazy. The EMFs, it's nuts. So what does this do to the brain? Well, it doesn't help you at all, that's for sure. But memory retrieval is going to drop. So I can't remember things. I can't remember the name. I don't remember which way to go, or why did I walk into this room, right? Instructions don't integrate. I need you to do this, 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 and this. Remember when you were a kid and you remember, kids you could give them one thing to do and they could go do it. As they got older, you could give them a two-step thing to go do. Go pick up your shoes and then bring them in this other room and put them in the basket. They could do things in multiple steps as they got older. But we find now people aren't able to integrate multiple instructions. And emotional reactivity, as I mentioned, increases. They snap very quickly and focus becomes fragmented. So you're taking in information, but your brain is not processing it. So the brain decline is not all of a sudden, though, you guys. This is cumulative, and it's that way because of the inflammation.